Okay, I've just hit the record button.
Oh, I'm gonna go. Oops, sorry.
Okay, I think we are good to get started. Okay, so we said that we put forward a slide agenda today, and I really want to give us the bulk of our time to go through the demonstration of Canvas with Shiva. So I'm going to just kind of cover very quickly the first few items. And Shiva, if you wouldn't mind for item 2, we're going to share the blueprint of courses. If you could have that ready to demo, please, thank you. Okay, so the first item is covering the basic structure of course meets web design. So some of you have reached out about the training site that was curated from Canvas, why there are elements of like web design and accessibility and usability and all of those things rolled in with the methods of how to use Canvas. So I wanted to speak to that just a bit. When we teach online, we as educators are like responsible for also building the class and teaching the class. And by that, I mean, when you walk into a face-to-face classroom, you can tell right away where you're supposed to sit because the size of the desk is different and it's pointed in a specific direction. And you can tell where your eyes should be because there's this big board where people can write. And you can tell who you're supposed to listen to because that person usually gets your attention right away and says, hey, I'm the one you should listen to. All of those things, they don't exist until we build them into our online classroom. There is no cue for a student walking into a course website, because it's a website. There is no cue for them about where they should sit, where they should point their eyes, and who they should listen to until all of those things are spelled out for them, because they don't have those visual cues. So all of the materials about instructional design or designing a website in our course training material is about helping us to ensure that what we put into our course content includes those cues that we take for granted in a face-to-face class, that we build them into our online class. So we've, Shiva and I finished the blueprint. This is the shell that all of our courses will be developed from, and it includes some of those elements, elements about where you should look, who you should listen to, like who's in charge of the class. But there are also elements of web design that we need to include in our instructional strategy now, including the elements of like navigation, articulating where that navigation should be, and instruction as it relates to navigating the web. So there is, fundamentally, we want to keep things as simple as possible in whatever website we're designing for course. We want to keep as few clicks as possible, right? So you don't want to have to click one thing and then click 10 times before you get where you're hoping to be. So as few clicks as possible. Hi, George. Just a quick note.
Sorry, I'm late.
No problem. I just want to make sure you know we're recording today because we're doing a demo. Just making sure you're okay with that. Feel free to mute your camera if you need to. Thanks.
All right.
So we are just talking about how web design and course design meet. And just to kind of recap very quickly, we are building in our courses all of the visual cues that we take for granted in a face-to-face class, such as where to sit, who to listen to, who's in charge, and where the whiteboard is, right? We have to build that in our course site because those things are taken for granted in a face-to-face class. And our students, when they come into a digital class, don't know where those things are. So we build that through things like navigation, articulating what we want a student to do, and ensuring that all of the things are in one place for the student to do that. So if you have an activity that you want students to do, that you give them all of the instructions related to that activity, all of the tech support elements they may need to do the activity, and a place for them to actually submit the activity all in one place on the web. So they're looking at one page and they see all of that in one place. So all of those things are covered in our course training materials. And I just wanted to give kind of that very brief overview of why we look at both web design and how to use Canvas in the same place so that we can help ensure that we're building that classroom and teaching our content at the same time so that students don't have to figure out what they're looking for or how they're looking for it when we're teaching. Any questions about that? Great, then we are ready for item 2, which is the blueprint. So right now you all have sandboxes. We did that so that you would have a place to build. And Shiva's about to share her screen to show us the blueprint. And the blueprint, when you get your actual course that MECA has assigned for you, you can copy.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you mind enabling screen?
Oh, no problem. I forgot that Zoom made that a thing that's for every Zoom account, and I always forget because of all those Zoom bombers that happened. So thank you, Shiva, for the reminder. Okay, so blueprint. So you all have a sandbox, and your sandbox you can build in. You will be able to copy content out of your sandbox and into the course shell that you will receive. But the course shells that we're creating are from this blueprint. So all course shells will come with the same base level content, and you will modify that content. And when those come, you will be assigned as the instructor to any courses you are in with the registrar's office assigned to teach. So some of you may have more than one course shell. And then when it comes time to publish the course, the students who are enrolled in your course will come automatically enrolled into your course shell. So we need to make sure, Shiva, I'm realizing to ask the Canvas group to ensure that we have an unpublished published state when we enroll students so that faculty can build their courses out before students can actually see them. Thank you for your help remembering to do that on Monday. Okay, so when you get your actual course shell, the site that your actual course will exist in, it is going to look like this. And Shiva, do you want to take us through it?
Great. So I'm in student view right now, which is how your students will see this blueprint. And of course, you'll make modifications. This is the home page. It's the first page that students will see when they enter your course. We have a default image here, but marketing is working on some beautiful banners with MECA branding that we'll have in each of the courses once you get access to them. And you can see we have some filler text. So here you'll be able to add more information about your course. You'll introduce yourself to help create more of a social presence and connection with your students. I know many of you already have that connection, but for folks that are working with new students. And then to Araminta's point about always giving students resources to understand how to turn in assignments or work through the different pieces in Canvas, there's Canvas student guides. There's more information on these different pieces associated with Canvas. So the great thing is students might not always come back to this homepage once they figure out where your assignments are and your discussion boards are, but this homepage will always be there for them so they can continue to come back and access it if they have questions. And that's just one of several different access points where they can get help. So you'll continue to see there's more information on the announcements, the inbox, how the calendar works, and you'll be able to edit this page. But this is, I think, a great way to get started with your course once you receive it. And then you can see we've pared down the navigation options on the left. Once I leave student view, I'll enter teacher view, and this is what you'll see. So things like announcements won't actually become visible to students until you add an announcement to the course. So that the navigation on the left will grow a little bit as you start to add different components, but not by much. But again, what you view will be a little bit more robust than what the students see. Any questions on this, or Araminta, feel free to jump in and let me know if I missed anything.
No, that was great. So we will all be editing that home page so that it is unique. And Shiva, I missed it. I'm sorry. I looked away. Did you mention the banners?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
I mentioned the banners,
Great.
and I think Elizabeth had a question, but she may have been muted.
Yeah, I think you're going to answer this in a minute, so you can be quiet.
Okay. So on the left, all of those buttons and navigation that are blanked out, and Shiva may have already covered this, have no content in them. However, those are the areas where you might build something out related to your course site. And as soon as content is in that area, it actually becomes visible to students. So when you look at the student view, Shiva, if you wouldn't mind shifting to student view right now, you'll notice that shrinks. That's all of the visible navigation that a student can see. And then if you flip back to instructor view, please, the instructor has a much more robust list of items. And as soon as I add an announcement, announcements becomes visible to students and a navigation button adds there. So when Shiva does the demo in a few moments, she's going to show us a number of features about how to use different content areas in the course site. And just very quickly related to that, one of the reasons why we are asking that you work with an instructional design support or a facilitator is to help you refine your course goals through the lens of that web development aspect of your course design. In other words, we want to make sure that as you're thinking about how you're going to teach your course, that you're thinking about the goals that you have or your wish list for what you can or can't do on the web, that you're thinking about it through the lens of the wish list so that we can help you focus on learning only the parts of Canvas that will most support those goals, because Canvas is a rabbit hole of technology. You could spend months learning how to use Canvas if you really wanted to, or you could just focus on the materials that you absolutely need for your individual course. So when you match to Rachel, Nick, Siobhan, Shiva, or myself, we will be working with you to isolate what it is you want to do with your course and help you think through how that will work on the web, and then focus you on the parts of Canvas that will serve your needs for your teaching goals. Does that make sense? Great. So I'm going to pause before Shiva does our demo and ask if there are any questions up to this point at all, and then we can jump into the demo. Okay, also Kairos. Oh, Elizabeth, are you talking? You're muted.
Yeah, I was talking to myself, but I do have a question.
Sure.
I just discovered Student View today, and it's happening at a point where I'm really lost. So Student View is found in settings, correct? Is that how you switch?
No, I think that you can't see it on Shiva's demo.
Oh, no, I wasn't really looking for
I
it. I
see.
was just sort of in general saying, how do I get, maybe it's just a technical question.
So
I can
look
ask later.
over, can you look at the screen where Shiva's mouse is moving back and forth?
Yeah.
That's Student View. So Shiva's mouse on the right-hand side of the screen,
Yeah.
under course status, there is a button that says Student View. Can you see that?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's Student View. So when she clicks it, you could click at Shiva. It allows you to see what the students see. And then you'll notice at the bottom in that pink bar that pops up, she is being prompted to leave Student View, and she goes back to Instructor View.
And that's available a lot, like maybe not every page, but it's there a lot. Is that correct?
I think it is every page.
Oh,
Every page that you are looking at inside of Canvas, I'm pretty sure it's there. You can just check right now, though. No, I guess not.
This is empty. Let me jump into one that is a little bit
Populated.
pages. If I go to view all pages. Yeah, so it looks like it's
Only in
available
settings.
from home. I was actually in home.
Right.
Home and, oops. And settings, home and settings, yep.
Oh, but it moves in settings. How tricky.
Yeah.
Now it's the second item. Good question. See, we are learning right alongside you. Thanks. Any other questions?
Yes.
Bob.
The choices in the left column, are they the only choices we're going to have, or can we modify them or do anything different with them?
So that's actually a limitation of Canvas that they have with very good reason. Nope, we cannot change them. But Canvas does that deliberately because they want every Canvas user everywhere to always know what they get when they click on those navigation buttons. So we can get rid of them. Some of them are already invisible. So anything that has a line through it is already invisible to the student view. So you can remove them, but you cannot change the name of them. I think teachers can't add any. I think only admins can. So
Okay.
these are the labels that they have, and this is, yes, thank you, Shiva. Do you want to take over and explain what you're doing?
Sure. So I'm in a sandbox, or I'm in the Blueprint sandbox, but that's not important. I went to settings and then navigation, and this works like a drag and drop. So I can drag things down that I don't want students to see, or I can drag things up. I can also move them. We recommend, the way that Araminta set it up, we recommend having them in a specific order, but if you really felt the need, I think teachers can move them, but there's no adding. So for exactly that reason that Araminta listed.
Is the homepage that we're going to get in our course, is that already going to be populated with what you showed us earlier?
So right now your sandboxes that you have are empty unless you've been working in them, but then once you are assigned a course, they will look like this. Let me go ahead and jump back to this blueprint. They will look similar to this, but with your course information and a more appropriate banner.
But the rest of that is going to stay there. We'll have all those things to actually use, a faculty introduction, etc. All the subheads are going to be there, or are not?
They will, and you could certainly add to them if you wanted to. So you'll be able to edit here and
very nice.
Make changes. Wow.
Very nice. Thank you.
Any other questions at this stage? Okay, do we think that we're ready to get a demonstration about how to do some different things in Canvas? Oh, look at that thumbs up. I love it.
Great. I'm just gonna.
Thank you. So Shiva, you're gonna navigate to a sandbox, I'm guessing. Awesome.
Perfect. Yep. And I'm gonna go a little bit out of order, if that's okay.
Perfect.
I'm gonna go ahead and get started. And I just really quickly wanted to preface by saying that I'm gonna go over some of the main features in Canvas that you'll be interacting with as faculty or an instructor. And I've been seeing you all on that short course, so I know many of you have already become familiar with things like assignments and discussions and modules to a degree. So I bet that many of you could actually switch places with me right now and facilitate this, but I appreciate the opportunity to just go through this all together. And I know I think last time we met, when Kyle had made that distinction between assignments and projects, we can't change assignments to be projects, but that was really helpful for me to hear how you're thinking about Canvas and how what you're doing in the classroom can translate to this online setting. So I appreciate you letting me go through this, and then any feedback and questions will really, I think, help all of us support you more in the important work that you do. So having said that, I have my screen up on a completely empty sandbox. So many of you will likely have a sandbox that looks like this unless you've started adding to it. And first, I wanted to show how to upload a document, and in this case, how to actually upload your syllabus, because I imagine many of you already have some syllabi that you could upload for practice if you haven't done so already. So I'm in this sandbox course. I'm going to navigate over here to my left-hand navigation menu, select syllabus, and then edit. And what you saw actually pop up, I was working in here earlier and I just kind of left. It does save the work that you do once you leave, and that was asking me if I wanted to bring that other work up. So that's really nice if you are ever worried about working in here and losing some things. Pretty much, it saved it every time, but still good to consistently save right when you're leaving the space as well. So here I'm just going to write some text about the course syllabus, and I want to upload a PDF version of my syllabus, and I want it to hyperlink to this text that I've highlighted here. So I'm going to go to these 3 dots, and then I'm going to go to this document icon, and I'm going to upload a syllabus. Bear with me, my computer is a little bit slow right now. So I'm uploading this PDF. I'm hitting submit. I'm always making sure to save when I'm working in a space. And so now a student can click on this link, and that will give them the PDF, which they could download to their computer, they could print. They can also use this small little microscope icon, and that previews the syllabus in a PDF format for them down below. Any questions about that? Or Araminta, if you wanted to jump in or add anything about this before I move on to another feature in Canvas?
Yeah, I might have missed it, but I didn't see you browsing your computer for the syllabus. How did it know what to upload?
I may have gone a little bit fast, and it also may have been a little bit choppy just because my computer's slow, but I did navigate and select it, and hopefully that got recorded. But if not, I'm happy to show you how to do that again, either right now or outside of this meeting. But I think it may have just been the choppiness of my computer.
Actually, I've done it. So that's why it was not that specifically, but I have uploaded. That's why I was like, how come she didn't have to browse?
No, it's not like a magic, like I have telepathic abilities with my computer. That would be kind of neat.
Shiva, when you, what I did was I didn't upload the syllabus the way with the file. I copied and pasted it in here. And that brings up a different question. Can students print a syllabus that's pasted into Canvas, or do they have to, does it have to be in a file format?
That's a good question. My personal sense, and Araminta, please jump in, is that I think you're already creating these in documents. So if you could convert them to PDFs and upload them here, I think that might be a little bit more user-friendly for your students, and then they could print in a more friendly fashion.
Okay.
But Araminta, you might think that it's better to, you might disagree, so feel free to jump in.
I think that really depends on a lot of different factors. So PDFs will open in the browser. In that respect, they're a lot easier for students, but they do need to be made accessibly to be easy for students. So again, that may vary, and it's possibly something we might discuss at that ID facilitation level, if that's helpful. Does anyone else here who's supporting Canvas have thoughts about PDF document uploading? Because there's also the option of sharing a link to a Google Doc. Awesome, thank you.
Great. Yeah, I'm excited about that conversation in the future. So thanks for asking that, Bob. Let's go ahead and go now to discussions. So I'm going to go ahead, go back to my left-hand navigation, go to discussions. And here I'm going to go ahead and start a new discussion topic. And I might call it week 1 and say, pardon my typos. So here's where I would actually type in the question. And you could, in your discussion, you could also put in a video. You could put in an image. That's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going back to my 3 dots. I'm going to upload an image. I'm actually going to upload, instead of a static image, I'm going to upload a GIF, which have their pros and cons, but I just wanted to let you know that that's something you could do if you wanted to have something that's a little bit more dynamic. And this one actually came in, the size is quite large, so I'm just gonna, oops, bear with me, make it a little bit smaller. When I do bring in images, it's really important for me to go ahead and click on image options and put in some alt text. And To my knowledge, we don't have anyone at MECA who uses a screen reader, but if we were, this would be information that would really helpful. So I always try to get in the habit of putting in alternative text. So again, if someone is using a screen reader to access the page and they can't see the image because they're blind or have low vision, then the computer and the screen reader would read, would tell them what this image contains. So I might, I might say, figure bobbing head with parrots moving wings and moving leaves. Or if it's just a decorative image, like a little line, I might just put decorative image so the screen reader doesn't stop and pick up that information. So here I've asked the students to do a visual analysis of this piece. I've put in my image, I've entered my alt text. It's not so huge that it's going to be difficult for students when they get to this page. I do want to make sure that students can respond to each other if that's something that you would like to see in the discussion, so allow threaded replies. Some of you, if this is maybe a really important assignment where you want the students to discuss the piece and you don't want to look to see what other students have put up before they put their own replies up, you might limit what students can see until they actually post and then they reply to one another. You can make this graded, identify how many points you'd like it to be worth, or whether it's incomplete or complete scale. You can require that students peer review one another's work. And then you can assign, I believe this is the due date. And you can also make it available from a certain time to a certain time. So maybe you don't want your students to be seeing this discussion board question until later in the semester. You can ensure that it doesn't show up using these date options. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then once I save a discussion board question, it's going to take a little bit of time when I go into student view, which I'll go over in just a minute, but then assignments will now be visible to students. Oh, but I have to publish it first. So I know that was, I kind of went back and forth a lot and covered a lot, but did that make sense? Any questions about that? Pretty straightforward. I know you've all been pretty active in the discussion, so this probably might feel pretty comfortable to most. I'm not hearing any questions, so I'm just going to go ahead and move on to assignments now. And you can see that I added points to the discussion, so it's going to appear as an assignment. I can also make other types of assignments. So here's where I might want to have an essay, or maybe a photo or a piece of animation that someone uploads. Here's where I might put the prompt. Again, I might want to assign a certain amount of points to it. This isn't always defaulted, so you might come here and see submission type. If you wanted the student to submit an essay, here's where you would select online, and then the different types of options. So you might want to allow them to upload a recording, a file uploads, which might be a PDF or a doc, or text entry, they would enter some information. You can allow limited or unlimited amounts of times that they submit this work. Certainly, if you wanted to break students up into groups, there's lots of opportunities to assign these as group assignments. Again, a due date by which it's visible. I'm sorry, a due date, and then a date by which it's visible for the students until an end date.
Thank you. Before you move on,
Yes.
two things I want to just draw attention to related to this. The first is if you could scroll back up, please, to where the points are. So Shiva pointed out that you can assign points for an assignment. Two things that will do, and in a later demo, we'll show you how to set up your gradebook. But those points will go into your gradebook, and once you set your gradebook up, your gradebook can factor the score for your students' overall accomplishments for you based on how you set those points up. So when we sit down with your facilitator and you determine how you're going to like organize all of your assignments, you may have a specific point value for each assignment so that it factors the score that you want at the end in your grade book. So there's one aspect to that. The other thing is after you set a point value, it will trigger you when somebody has submitted to the assignments. It will not trigger you unless you tell it to, if you make it 0 points. So you have to have at least 1 point for when a student actually submits to that assignment Dropbox for you to get a notification that there's something there for you to grade. So once you tell it 10 points or whatever points you decide, if Shiva now submits an assignment to that link, I will get a notification that something is there that I need to look at. And then I would go in and look at that and provide Shiva feedback and so on. So those 2 things I just wanted to draw attention to.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, if there's not questions, I'm going to move through to announcements. And announcements, this is another one where until you actually post an announcement, students will not see this in the navigation menu. So we're gonna go ahead and post an announcement. You can see similar to these other pages that we've been on. Again, we're looking at this rich content editor. We have a title. We can post, we can delay posting. So let's say you want to set a reminder for midterms or an important assignment that's due a week before it's due. You can do that now instead of having to wait to do that later. I did look at enable podcast feed, which seems like a useless feature, and I'm happy to talk about it more. But if you're wondering, I did look into that, and not necessarily something that you want to worry about. You can allow users to comment, that's up to you, allow liking, but these are pretty straightforward. Again, you can add a video, a welcome video, you can add images, text. We'll go ahead and save. Oh, and I'm probably not, don't know why it's not saving. I'm just gonna put some text there. Oh, I didn't choose my delay posting date. So here's my announcement. Let's see, any questions about that until we go to another area?
Yeah, Shiva, if you did, if you added a video, if you did a video welcome instead of the text welcome, where would you put it?
That's a great question. Yeah, so let's go back to edit. That's actually next on my list, so I'm so glad you asked. So here, I'm gonna erase this gobbledygook that I put here. So instead of writing in something, I'm going to go back to my 3 dots. And if I wanted to insert a document, again, my document icon. If I wanted to insert an image, my image icon. And here's where I can insert media. So for example, I can do this a number of different ways. I can actually record media, and let's see if it lets me do this even though I'm in Zoom. So I can hit record. There's going to be a pop-up that comes. I hit allow, and you can probably hopefully see that it's giving me the opportunity, although it's cutting it off for me a little bit. Bear with me. So I can start recording, and then I could record a welcome message, and once I'm done, it just plops it right in here, which is really, really nice. It wouldn't have closed captions or a transcript, so I think at one point in some of the materials we recommended you kind of writing out what your video will entail if you can. I know it's a little bit more time consuming, but if you did decide to record a welcome, we always encourage having either a transcript that you can insert. We can talk about closed captions later, but so that's one way where you record your video welcome. Another one, bear with me, is to actually upload something that you might have on your desktop. We do run into some storage challenges, so we encourage you to have smaller videos if you are going to use this upload method. Or you can always embed. So if you're grabbing something from YouTube, often they'll give you an embed code. And I'm happy to go through that with anyone who's assigned to me, or your instructional designer can go through that as well. So you can put your embed code here if you wanted to specifically embed a YouTube video. So those are some ways you can do that. Any questions about that? About putting in videos? Okay, great. So if there's not any questions about videos, I'm actually going to go into Canvas's conference tool. And that on my big long list of links in this navigation is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to conferences. I'm leaving here. And I actually tried to demo this earlier in another Zoom call, and that's when I learned it wouldn't let me. So I went ahead and I actually recorded how conferences work. But if you were doing this and you were setting up a conference, again, you would go to conferences. Much like all of the other features, you hit this plus sign and it would allow you to start a conference. And here's a little bit of what that conference would look like. Let me go ahead and bring it up. This is probably one of the features I'm most excited about in Canvas. So again, you would hit that conference button. You can enable recording, but you have to do it before the meeting starts. Oops. You can invite everyone in your course, all your students, and they would actually get an invitation letting them know. Or, oops, bear with me. You can invite certain people in the course if you maybe just wanted to meet with a smaller subset of your course. And it takes us into this conference tool. You'll test your microphone. You might get some pop-ups that ask you if it's okay for this tool to use your microphone. So you can see that popped up for me here, and I allowed that. Again, I tested my microphone to make sure that works. This is the landing page that I get to. And you can also go straight to a whiteboard slide. You can see I'm just demoing it here. I've also turned on my webcam, so students can see me as I'm demoing whatever it is that I'm demoing. I've started recording. Students can also turn on their webcam, and if it's too much or disruptive, you can mute or turn off students' webcams as well. Just a few more features. There is a whiteboard, so I can write, I can annotate, and I also can turn on this whiteboard for students. So students could actually get on, and we could all as a group start annotating one whiteboard discussion, which is exciting. I'm not sure entirely how you would use it, but it might be a fun thing to do. You can see there's different actions here that I've pulled up. You can start a poll, yes, no, true, false. This is a great way to just kind of, if you do have a 1 hour lecture, a great way to just kind of pause and get student engagement. I, as a grad student, took 50% or more of my classes online. I'm an introvert, I'm very quiet. I don't like to speak up a lot in class. And I loved these lectures that had polling and chat boxes because I felt like I could engage with the course in a way that I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable doing so in a larger room. So this is one of the things that I actually think is a great positive that you don't get in the physical classroom. So again, the polling, you can show how people have polled. We had talked about external video, so you can actually pop in an external video. So here I've got a YouTube link that I put in, and it's playing a video. And the great thing is that I'm still here. So I can talk about the video, I can pause the video, I can annotate on top of the video as I'm in this space with my students or the students.
But I'm not seeing anything.
Oh, you're not?
I'm just seeing the page that we've been on for 5 minutes. It says conference in an orange box and new conferences.
Screen capture is likely not catching the pop-up. I was looking away. I did not realize it would do that.
No. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, everybody. Well, what I can do is I will send you this. It's a really quick, it's like a 3-minute video, and I will send it to you, or you don't even have to rely on me. You can jump into conferences in your Sandbox account and explore it on your own, or I'm happy to explore it with you as a student or a teacher role in your classroom. So sorry about that. Thanks for letting me know.
So the
All right.
reason we might want to use this conference feature is that it offers these kinds of little extras that Zoom doesn't.
So not everybody has Zoom. So if you're an instructor who does have Zoom, that's great. You can use Zoom. Some people use Google Meets because they have that through their Google Apps, but the conferences feature in Canvas is available to all Canvas users. So you all have this web conferencing utility. And specifically what Conferences does that's pretty wonderful is it has a whiteboarding app. So for those of you who need to teach things that require like a blackboard or the ability to like stand at a chalkboard and write out a formula, for instance, that's built right into this conference tool. And it's already a part of Canvas. So if you were to add like Zoom sessions to your calendar, you would have to add those manually, meaning you'd have to go to Zoom, copy out the link, the invitation, and then copy and paste it into your Canvas site. That's fine. Or you could use the conferences feature in Canvas, which is right there in Canvas, and just schedule them, and it's right there as part of your tool. So it's up to you what your preference is. We just wanted to make sure everybody knows Conferences exists, especially for those who find Meet to be buggy and don't own Zoom. And also if you needed the whiteboarding application.
Oh, when you're talking about owning Zoom, does this go back to the fact that MECA doesn't have a Zoom account, or we only get 45 minutes if we don't have a personal Zoom account?
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah, so MECA does not have a Zoom license for our faculty. Our faculty use Google Meet, or you can use Canvas Conferences. If you do own a Zoom account, some people do, you can use Zoom to teach. That's fine too.
Does Conferences allow you to sort of break the class into smaller groups the way Zoom does?
Yes, yep. So you
Okay.
can have breakout rooms in Conferences.
Yeah, and it's really complicated to show through a session like this a web conferencing utility, because we're literally using the webcam and microphone we need to show you the webcam and microphone. So we'll probably have to find you a video that like somebody else made and send it to you so you can see the features of Conferences, or we could schedule a time where we actually make a conference in our Canvas training site and invite you to join that so that you could experience it that way.
Great. Well, I vote for all of the above. I think that would be exciting. I really like Conferences. So I'm sorry that no one could see what I was doing, but I will move on. I just have, let's see, three other things I wanted to show you. And the next piece is third-party apps. So I'm actually going to go back into my sandbox, which if you can't see my sandbox and you can't see me moving my mouse around, please let me know. When I'm back in my sandbox, I'm going to go to Settings, and I'm going to go to Apps. And apps are a number of tools that you can implement to help further facilitate maybe some of the learning goals or objectives that you have for your course. I noticed that there's a number of math-related and graphing apps, so I'm curious to see if those would be of assistance to anyone. You can search for apps right within your sandbox. You can also go to Canvas's App Center, and here's where you can look at only apps that are completely free and filter in a number of different ways. So once you've found maybe an app that might be of interest, you can go back to your sandbox and go ahead and install it. And you can see I've installed a number of apps. I will be very, very, very honest. Some of these apps work really well and others don't seem to work at all. So it might be a little bit of trial and error. And certainly I think faculty could go without using pretty much any of these apps, maybe Vimeo or YouTube, and do amazingly well. But we just want you to be aware that they're here in case, again, they can further supplement your teaching. So one of the apps that I installed was this Twitter app, and by installed, really you just need to do a search and hit add app, that installs it. You might have to wait a few moments. I'm going to go, now that I've installed my Twitter app, I'm going to go to Pages. I'm going to actually start a new page. I'm just going to call it Twitter. Again, I'm going to go down to my 3 dots. And this time I'm going to this icon, it looks like a cord that you plug in, and that's where I can bring up some of my apps that I've installed. And I'm going to go to my Twitter app. And let's say it was really important to me to have a page where students are seeing some information that continues to change. So I will put in BLM. I want students to see some of the tweets that are coming out of the BLM movement. And I might want to limit that to 5 or 10 or 25. And then I'll embed that into my page. So you, the faculty, will know how exactly that something like this might be of use to you. But we just wanted to show you how it would actually work to install an app and then get it going on a page or an announcement section or an assignment. You might have an assignment that's like, pick one of these tweets and write a response to it, or what are these tweets? How are they influencing artists? I mean, you could have a particular hashtag that might be more relevant to your course. Questions about that one? About third-party apps?
Yeah, I'm mixed up about the YouTube that you mentioned. So is this what you're getting at, that if I just want to if I want to play a 5-minute YouTube video for some reason, I don't need to download the YouTube app. Would I only download the YouTube app if I want to make a YouTube video?
That's a great question. So, let me take a few steps back. Oh, go ahead.
I'll just jump in. So the apps feature within Canvas is about making the experience more seamless for all Canvas users. So one thing to remember is that your students may actually be accessing the course. I'm looking for my phone to hold it up. They may be accessing the course through their phone. And the way that Canvas works on a phone might be better if the YouTube app is loaded in, if you're playing a YouTube app in Canvas. So meaning whatever the student is doing to interact with your course site might be benefited by those apps. So that's one aspect of it. And then another aspect is occasionally when you add an application, it adds it to the rich content editor, which is what Shiva is showing right now. So that little bar of like things that you can do when you make content is called the rich content editor. And occasionally when you add an app, it will add a button to that allows you to embed something. So like you could plug a YouTube video in here, or you might be able to plug a Twitter feed in here or a podcast stream based on those apps that you add. So it's just a feature that allows the tools to work together better. It doesn't necessarily block you from anything. And one of the potential apps that we're probably all going to use is Google Apps for Education. So the Google Apps app, that is hard to say. The Google app, we'll call it that. The Google app in Canvas, when you add it to Canvas, allows your like Google Documents to appear seamlessly in the Canvas site. So if you have like a Google Drive document that you've written in and you add the Google app, it'll appear right there on the screen in Canvas. The students don't have to go to another link. It's just on the screen in their Canvas site, what they're looking at without having to leave the room and look at it somewhere else. So in general, apps are just about making things easier to use on different devices.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And Shiva, did you have anything to add to that? Because I know she had a specific question about YouTube making videos versus showing them. And I don't know that I hit that specifically.
That was great. I was just going to say, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that in the Blueprint courses that will eventually come, so when we made the Blueprint, which will be a model for all of the courses that you get, I believe we turned on YouTube and Vimeo. So those apps should already be on for you, and they should be available in the rich context editor. So you shouldn't, unless I'm totally wrong, which I have been before, you shouldn't have to worry about turning those apps on. Do you know, Araminta, will it work that way?
And Google too?
And Google should be on as well.
Okay.
Yes, we added a certain handful of apps we knew everybody would be inclined to use.
Great. Okay, so next let's move on to modules. I'm going to, once again, jump over to my left-hand navigation, leaving here. And so modules will allow us to take the content that we've been building, whether it's pages or it's discussions or assignments or quizzes, and it'll allow us to chunk them. So here I've gone to modules. I'm going to start a new module. I might name it week 1. And so you could certainly break up your modules by weeks. You could break them up by projects, by assignments. Surely you'll have a better sense of how that would work. So I've created one module called week 1. And here I can either upload from my computer. I can add any of these assignments that I've already made. If I had made pages, I could add pages. Again, quizzes, as you make these in these other sections, you can go ahead and add them to each week. And then what you can also do, and will have seen this in the short course, is you can limit when your students are able to see this content. So actually, I think once you start oh, here we go. So I'm going to go back to edit, and I can actually lock week 1 until a certain date. Or once I start adding more to the module, I can actually lock it until someone maybe, so let's say this was the week 5 module, I could lock it until people had gone through week 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you can go ahead and map out your entire course and then make it available as you see fit for your students. I'm happy to, this is an empty sandbox, so I'm happy to jump to a more robust one to kind of show how you can pull more into a particular module if that would be helpful, or maybe this is sufficient. Any questions on modules? Or anything to add? Do you all have a sense of how you think you might break up your course online?
Shiva, I tried creating a page and then tried bringing it over to the module, and I was not able to do that. Can you model that for us?
Yes, absolutely. So let's go ahead, and here's my Twitter page that I created. You might be that you had to actually publish the page. So let me go ahead and publish this page. I'm going to go ahead and go back to modules and hit my plus sign. Oops. Sorry, everybody. I'm clearly learning this too. So I'm back at modules. I've hit my plus sign. Yeah, I'm going to go to pages here, and there's that page that I created. So it may be that you had to pick from the drop down. I'm going to add that Twitter page I just made, and now it's there. And it's possible I didn't even have to publish it, that I just wasn't seeing it because I wasn't using the drop down properly. Does that maybe answer the question?
Actually, it would have if I could have seen it, but I had my screen set up so that I was blocking myself from seeing what you were doing, unfortunately. Can you just run through it very quickly
Sure,
again,
yeah, absolutely. I think the more practice I can get at this, the better. So thank you. So again, I'm at modules. I'm going to go ahead and hit my plus sign, and it's defaulted to pages, but you can select assignment,
Okay.
page. So it might be that you have to pick it from this drop down. And
Okay.
then I was able to add the item.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. The only other thing I wanted to show was the student view, which I think we covered, but just to reiterate, when I'm either in my home or my settings, I can go ahead and go into student view. And what that allows me to do is to get a sense of how it would appear as a student. So anything that I've hidden, any hidden elements that I didn't want the students to see wouldn't be available in student view. If I've asked the students to go through a particular module before they can get to another module, when I'm in student view, I wouldn't be able to get to those delayed or hidden modules either. And again, these, you can see when we started, we weren't able to see announcements, but now that we've added announcements, they're available in student view. Any questions about student view? I will say, oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go.
I was just curious, and maybe this is like a different section, but can you show us how to add a Google Doc that already exists in the modules? Because all of my stuff for my classes are basically already uploaded to Google Drive. And sorry if you already showed this or it's redundant, or I can reference it somewhere else too.
No, I'm so glad you asked. And I think we might need to work through this together, because I had just tried a second ago and it was asking for authorization. So I'm not sure, I don't know the answer to that. So I don't know if if it's my sandbox that's giving me problems. I had actually written a little note to myself to go back to it.
Yeah, we may need to follow up with Canvas proper, because I had an issue with it when I was testing it last week. I thought it was me. So I'm sorry, I don't think we can show you that today, but bear in mind, we're still building out the Canvas installation. So we'll figure that out and get back to you. Thanks.
Although it does look like it came up. So I went
was it a delay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Past that.
I don't know what it was. It just, the magic of us all being together.
It's like when you call tech support over and then suddenly it works. Shiva, after you show this, could I just add, if we have time, could you show them the comments? Because I think that will be helpful as people are thinking about content development and finding this repository. Could we do that too?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so I went to Google Drive and it worked for me, and I can't guarantee that it will work for you. It had me log in, and magically it looks like all of my folders are here for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump in and grab one of these. And okay, so it looks like it's taking me there and not actually implementing it. So bear with me. The other option is to go to any of the pages with the rich content editor. In this case, I'm going to pages. I'm going back to my rich content editor and my apps. And let's see if it lets me in this time. Thanks everyone for letting me do this in real time. So I'm going back to that document I had initially tried to incorporate. Going to embed it. Looks like it will let me either link to it or embed it. And okay, it's working. So that's great. I know I went through that pretty fast. But again, that the process was, I went to this time a page, but you could go to a page, assignments, announcements, discussions, anything with that rich content editor. I went to the apps, and I went ahead and selected the file. And obviously I'll have to make sure that this is something that's shared either with the students in my class or shared more publicly, because I'm not quite certain that everyone would be able to view this. We're going to go ahead and I think Araminta and I are going to go ahead and look into this further and make sure that it's working consistently.
I'm pretty sure they have to be logged into their Google Drive. You either have to have it set to anyone with the link can view, or anyone who wants to interact with it still also has to be logged into Google Drive. But they should see it like that if they're logged in. So,
great.
Comments?
Comments. Okay, so last piece. Thank you everyone for sticking with me. So I'm going back way over here in the navigation menu, and Commons is a set of resources, whether it's entire courses, quizzes, pages that people like us, instructional designers, faculty, have chosen to share with other people in the Canvas community. So what we can do is earlier, for example, I had searched creative writing courses. I'll be honest, it doesn't look like we're very heavy on the crafts, but it certainly looks like there's at least some studio art courses
Ian
in
says there is a great class on glazes and mixing glazes. And then there are some other demos in there on different art features. So I mean, it is true studio arts will not be as highly represented here, but if you are a studio arts instructor, please do take a look. There might be something in there that you don't have to recreate. So yes, thanks.
That's great. Yeah, I'm happy to dig in further, but I can also stop here too, being cognizant of time.
Are these all public domain?
They're not all public domain. I think they have different Creative Commons licenses, and certainly some might be, or you might know more. Go ahead.
They may not be public domain, but you are allowed to use them. If they are in the Commons, the person who put them there has given you permission to use them in any of your course materials. And there's over 180,000, I think, course materials in here. So there's a lot. You may find something you need, especially if you teach, like I taught college writing for 10 years. And so there is definitely going to be content on here that I would not need to recreate on like argumentative structure, right? So I could grab it from the Commons, host it, and then ask my students to do something with that I am overviewing, just to save myself time from having to write it myself or create it myself. So the Commons is very useful for that aspect. And then we have till 3:30 today. And I know there's still time for questions. And if anyone has any questions about what we covered today, so feel free to jump right in.
I have a question, but I'm afraid it deals with quizzes. Can I go ahead and ask it, or would you?
Yeah, I think that's okay, Araminta.
Sure, any question is fine.
Okay, because I've been trying to develop some quiz questions, and within the question, the rich content editor is there, but it won't allow me to integrate images or outside links to pages or outside material.
That actually sounds like a tech support question because I'm not sure, what browser are you using?
Chrome.
And what kind of device? Mac, PC,
Mac.
operating system? Mac. Okay.
Yeah.
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah. I mean, I'm perplexed because when I go back to the Canvas page that I was using at the University of Missouri, there isn't any problem with this. But somehow, when I'm trying to create a quiz within MECA, it just doesn't do anything. I can show you the problem if you want me to share the screen.
Sure.
Am I allowed to do that here?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, let me find it. Sorry. It should be, well, now why can't I find it?
Maybe while you're looking for that to reproduce it, we could take some other questions from folks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. It's about the short course itself. I'm fine. I think that the spots in the course where it has us try things is helpful in some ways, but I'm also finding that, for example, now, right today, this morning, I'm incredibly stuck. I don't think I'm going to be able to find my way out of this. And the way the course is set up, I can't proceed until I prove that I've done this. And it's going to cause me to lose huge amounts of time. Sometimes I just need to be able to say, I can't get it. I'm going to move on and I'll come back later when I can get help with this. Is there any way to change that?
I'm sorry, I thought that problem had come up earlier and I thought we had changed it. So I take it that didn't happen.
I'm having the same problem.
That may be on me. I think I was waiting for an okay to do that. But I also, memories and days are mush in my mind. I can do that right now. Sorry about that, everybody.
It's always nice when you can have it's all Shiva's fault.
It very rarely is, and it's probably that I did not give you an okay if that's the case. I'm sorry, but yes, please do change that.
Did I ask my next question, or Sue, are you ready?
Well, I'm still having trouble getting to, maybe that will do it. No, I can try. Let's try this. Oh, can you see it? Did I do it?
See
Yes.
your page.
Okay, great. So if I go to edit and I go to edit questions, so I have the question here, but when I try to go and link to a page or link to course links, and I go to a page, it just doesn't link. Or if I try to go to a course image and put a course image in, it doesn't take.
Are you waiting? Are you giving it the time to do that? I know. Can you wait a few seconds to let it?
Okay, I'll try.
I can also act as you and see if I get the same
well,
problem.
let me just see here. Let's go to course documents. Oops, that's not what I want. Well, okay, I did want to try to talk to this PDF. It closes immediately as soon as I click on the document.
That's interesting. I've seen some of the same behavior for me when I'm doing some image editing, but I haven't seen it do that. But it is very similar to something I've experienced. So I'm going to investigate. One of us will investigate, and then we'll definitely get back to you. Thank you so much for demoing that for us. And I'm sorry, you mentioned it, but I forgot. What browser are you using?
Chrome.
Chrome.
Yeah. Okay, now let me see. How can I stop screen share? There.
And is it the most updated version of Chrome?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
You're like, we've been through this. I know we've been through this.
You suggested that a week ago when I was having issues, so I did update Chrome then. Yeah.
I'm a broken record. I always ask the same thing.
Well, no, it was a good reminder. I needed that reminder.
Well, I will investigate. Thank you so much. That's really helpful to see it live.
Other questions? Oh, go ahead, Elizabeth.
So my next question is, when are we going to be paired with a mentor to actually be able to start building our course? I just learned that the college writing has been moved from starting September 28th to August 24th. So I'm in a tear.
Okay, we will get on that as soon as we can. So if not tomorrow, by early next week.
Cool. And are we going to is the mentor going to help us with this, or are we going to get some sort of handout or something that tells us the order in which we're supposed to do things? For example, on Brightspace, you have to start with the gradebook.
So we are building this with you, and we're learning this right alongside you. So you have all the materials that we do, that we have access and that we've created or curated. We are like a step ahead of you. And part of this cohort is for you to help us determine what those needs will be. So what I'm hearing right now is, okay, we need a handout. We probably will not be able to get that handout to you within the next week or two. But we will do everything that we can. So when you have a mentor, yes, they will be working in step with you to solve those pieces. I actually am not sure if in Canvas you have to set anything up in a specific order. I am, however, also learning Brightspace, Elizabeth, because of my other role. I teach just to stay current in this field all the time. So Brightspace, you can set your course up without the gradebook first. It is best practice to set the gradebook up first. And I'm going to guess it's the same in Canvas world, because if you don't set your gradebook up first, then every time you set your assignments or discussions up, they may miscalculate in the gradebook by the time you get to the end. So that's why I didn't have us cover Gradebook today. It's too big a topic to cover in this overview demo. That's like a demo all in and of itself to make sure we set those up correctly.
And
So
it's like
go ahead.
twice as complicated as anything else, as near as I can see, in both of them, Brightspace and Canvas. It's like, you know, it's complicated.
How do you grade now? By percentages, points? Do you have things that are like worth more than other things?
I have a very weird grading system that's never going to translate to something like this, so I'm going to have to learn how to grade differently. My grading system has always been to find everything that I possibly can to give the student the highest grade I can justify.
Gotcha. Okay. Maybe so maybe we devote a grade center overview for our next session, and we'll work out some of those idiosyncrasies. When I was in ID and I was working with faculty, I used to work with Bob, actually. He can speak to this. There were so many different variations of how somebody might grade, and we could solve almost all of them. So we might be able to come up with that together. But I would recommend, though there is no predetermined, Canvas does not say you must do this step before you do that step. I do recommend you set up your grading first, just because of that potential for miscalculation. And then another piece there, like, you don't have to grade using Canvas. You can choose to grade somewhere else and just have assignments in Canvas. That's fine if you choose to do that. But I want to caution you, the Gradebook is how you will actually be giving feedback to your students, even if you're not using Gradebook for like a numerical score. So when I make that assignment link and Shiva submits a paper to me, I get a notification to go look at my Gradebook, and I see that paper that she submitted. When I go to give her feedback in Canvas, it comes to her through the Gradebook. So even if I'm not using it to make a numerical score or to calculate something at the end, it's still going to be something I use to interact with my students in some way.
You just really surprised me. I thought in general with LMSs that one of the major reasons that I thought it was a requirement to use the Gradebook, basically so that students would know what their grade was at any point in time.
It is ideal.
I would love to not use the Gradebook.
Oh.
It's not me. I mean, I would use it for the feedback. I have no problem with that at all. I think it's great, actually. That rapid feedback thing is pretty cool, even though I don't understand it.
Just a nuance there. It is absolutely best practice that you use a grade center and a learning management system, because online students, if you haven't noticed it yet, for those of you, we just went through this, we were all online, right? They are much more nervous because they don't have the ability to see you Monday morning at 9 a.m. and ask you, hey, how'd I do on that paper? They don't have that anymore. So they are looking to this online medium for that feedback that they have lost at the water cooler that they used to bump into you at. So it really is the best practice to use the Grade Center. I understand, though, we all understand that that's a lot to bite off in 3.5 weeks before you have to open your course for, like, I get that. So if we need to do that in stages, that's fine. Maybe the first time we don't use Canvas Grade Center, maybe we do, if that's something that you want to do. But we'll get there piece by piece.
Thanks.
Yeah. Other questions?
Well, I have one more question. How
Sure.
are students going to learn Canvas?
It's a great question. Is Paul still here? Paul, I don't know if you are here. If you are, I wonder if you might talk about the orientation. I'm not sure where that's at. And if you're not, I will speak briefly. Okay, I think you may have stepped away. That's fine. So Student Life early on asked us for permission to create an orientation in Canvas for all of the first year students, and they actually are already in it, I think. Or maybe they're not. Shiva, you might know, you had a conversation recently. Part of that site is intended to include a training that Canvas developed, where students can just pop in and learn whatever aspect of Canvas they need to learn and then pop out again. So it's like a self-selected piece-by-piece modular learning experience. So students can say, oh, I need to know how to use discussions. They go on that version and they do just the discussion. So we're going to make that available to all students. Whether or not they use it, we can't enforce, like we can't require it, but you knowing it exists means that when you're teaching a class, if a student says, I don't know how to do discussions, you can say you should go take that course that you were given in the orientation and see if you can't figure that out. So, and if you take the course front to back, it's like a 3.5-hour course, so nobody's going to do that. It really is intended to be piece by piece for students.
So to what extent, I mean, I'm always happy to help students if I can, but I don't think I'm going to be very helpful this first semester with respect to Canvas. So, so I don't have to feel that I need to be able to answer their technical questions.
I think I'm going to have something that's going to make all of us smile here. So I was able to secure for us the tier 1 support from Canvas. I emphasized how drastically we would need that if we were going to roll this out right away. And what that means is when we roll Canvas out on September 1st, there will be a button that's like Canvas Help, if I'm remembering that. It's 24/7. It is staffed by a Canvas rep who anyone, you, staff, or students can ask any question anytime about how to use Canvas and get an answer right away. And we, Paul, Ann Dennison and I, are actually filling the knowledge base for all the questions that might go to Canvas that aren't about Canvas, like how do I get financial aid? So we're setting that up now so that Canvas has even answers to those things, or at least knows where to direct a student. But that is available to all of us all the time for 1 year. So if you get stuck in Canvas, you will be able to say, I'm stuck, and someone will help you from Canvas. And if it's something that Canvas, like if it's a design question that really MECA, they'll send it back to us if needed, and we'll help you. So that's all the time.
That's fantastic. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot to expect everyone to become tech experts and learn to teach with this at the same time. So we're really happy to have that. George, did I see you unmute? Did you have something?
Yes, I did. If you're ready.
Yeah.
Okay. I got a link to work in a quiz. I don't know why. Maybe settings. And I'm not. That's typical of when you're learning something, though. Things just randomly don't work.
Well, George, let me ask, were you embedding an image into the question?
No, I linked to an internal and an external file. I tried both and they both worked, but I didn't try to link to an image.
Okay, well, I'll keep trying.
I can keep trying too.
Yeah, but I've been trying for a while, so yeah.
I did.
And I have been able to do this on Canvas in other institutions.
Oh, good.
And what also confuses me is the layout of the rich content editor is different in MECA than it is at other Canvas sites I've used. I don't know what that means. It's just an observation.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Might be a new version.
Might be.
They like to change versions and move everything around, so you're confused continually, even if you've used software for 20 years. Yeah. The software I'm teaching just updated and they moved stuff all over the place. Like I had to, anyway, my one question for now is the video seems highly compressed. So if you do a demo of something on screen, it looks pretty bad. Are we going to have to use another service, or should we, or is there a setting in Canvas to change?
I'm sorry, what looks bad? Is it like resolution?
Just the compression. Yeah, the resolution gets fairly low. So if you try to make a video extra large so students would be able to see some detail, it looks very jaggy. But the video files are really small. That's the upside in terms of memory space or download time. But I didn't know if you knew that off the top of your head. Or...
I don't, and I'm just thinking about how best to address it. That may be a question, Shiva, we need to ask Ryan when we see our vendor liaison, unless you have an answer. Thank you, George.
I haven't experienced that with videos. They've been working fine for me, and I have a really old, sad laptop. But it's clearly happening. So I'm curious.
Great. They upload fine. They look fine. But if I try to change the scale of the video, because when you're showing these fiddly little interface things for making stuff just would disappear. You know.
That's interesting. And you haven't seen a pattern where that's only happening in one feature, or is there more information that you could give us? Like that's only happening when I upload videos to discussions, or it's across the board, it seems like?
I haven't tried a lot of different, it was just a standard page that I was adding video to put in a module for students to go through, but
that's helpful.
I can check around too. I thought you might know. I don't want to hang it.
No, but that's super, super helpful. Thank you.
We probably have time for about one more question.
Also, I'll say quickly, I think I made everything accessible in that short course. So if it doesn't work, let me know.
Okay, so we have to follow up for George's question with our vendor liaison. Susan, links were not working for you, but they worked for George. I wonder if you two might be willing to.
The links work in other areas. It's just the quiz question, within the question itself. I think, although I should check, that, when you open the quiz, there's the first page where you give directions. I think it works there, but then you add a question, and that's where the problem seems to lie.
And I'm in there right now because I can pretend to be people. So
okay.
I pretended to go to your, I'm acting as you, and I went into that quiz, that very quiz question, and I was able to add an image.
Really?
So
It's odd.
I know that it gets the odd award.
I'm just trying to think I wonder what the issue is.
Have you tried turning it off and back on?
I know, I was just about to.
I have, yeah. No, I have.
I haven't. I figured you had, but it's always the first thing and always the most painful.
Well, I will keep. If you've been able to do it, I'll just keep trying and see if I can figure out.
There's definitely something going on there. So let's speak to the rep and see if they have any suggestions.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop this recording if nothing else. I feel like we've captured that part of our video. Thank you.